Hi, this is Brendan, founder and CEO of Concrete Sensors for today's edition of What's in Your Concrete. And today I'd like to talk about cold weather concrete, and specifically how do we define cold weather concrete. So the first place to go to look to what to do in cold weather is the ACI, the American Concrete Institute. And they have a standard, of course, on cold weather concrete. It's ACI 306R-2016. So it was just updated last year. And actually there were a few interesting updates in that. So one of the more interesting ones is that parallel curing, or pouring concrete in a cylinder and putting it outside next to the field curing concrete, is no longer an accepted method. And growing up in the industry, that was always our practice, so I found it interesting that that's no longer accepted. And it's no longer accepted because concrete cures differently in the field than it will in a cylinder, a small cylinder. So instead, there's an emphasis on using sensors and using the maturity method. Using sensors and embedding sensors, knowing what the temperature is from within the concrete is a much more accurate way to know that your concrete is curing appropriately in cold weather. So how do you define cold weather concrete? Well, the ACI defines it as any temperature less than 40 degrees during the protection period. So you ask, what's the protection period? Well, that's the time when the concrete is adversely affected by the cold weather. And that can mean a large number of things, but maybe some of the simpler ways to think about it is, how strong does the concrete need to be to withstand a freeze-thaw cycle? And there's two ways to look at that. So the first is can the concrete withstand a single freeze-thaw cycle? And the ACI defines that as, if the concrete has reached 500 psi, then yes, it can withstand a freeze-thaw cycle, a single freeze-thaw cycle. And the second way is, how strong does it need to be to withstand two freeze-thaw cycles or multiple freeze-thaw cycles? And that's defined as the concrete being at least 3,500 psi. So again, just to wrap up, how do you define cold weather concrete? It's any temperature less than 40 degrees during that protection period, and you probably want to get the concrete to at least 3,500 psi before you remove the protection. That way it can withstand multiple freeze-thaw cycles. And that's it for today's edition of What's in Your Concrete.